Thank you very much, Stewart, for inviting me. It was great being put up for last night in the Celtic Crown Plaza. I didn't know you could still book rooms at hotels by the hour, but anyway, let's look at the top of the table here. An array of royalty amongst rallying fraternity. Kris, Meeke here. On behalf of everybody here, just to thank you for the tribute you made at the end of the stage when you actually had won the event. It'd be dead easy to go overboard and be joyous at what you'd actually achieved, but I think we really all appreciate your thoughts and really were at that time. Very quickly, you know, I know world boxing champions, world snooker champions, we've all complained or all said that they were really nervous before the last round of a fight or before potting a black ball or whatever. How did you feel going into that final stage?
I was dead on until I heard that two boys had crashed in front of me, Mikkola and Nicky.
And then you shit yourself.
And then
It's not here.
But to be honest, in the last stage, I was fine once we got going, and it's quite a technical, slow stage. You just try and keep it neat and tidy, and with a few seconds in hand, so it wasn't so bad. It was only when we went over the finish line that your brain starts going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, trying to think of all the people that help get you there, and that's maybe when the emotions come on a bit. But yeah, it's special to win your first rally.
And did you hear a few noises in your head going off about, you know, does that sound right, or does...
I did, to be honest. You know, you always hear about guys that get close to their first win, or, you know, something big happening, you start to hear noises in the car, and the first run through that stage in the morning...
That's a psychological problem.
It is. I was told many years ago I had one of those, so... but, yeah... Well,
still issues.
I thought with some differential problem on the first stage, but I think it was only a noise of me getting a bit nervous. But yeah, the Cyprian held together and we managed to get through.
Excellent stuff. Right, okay, we've started with the guy who won the World Championship Rally most recently. Let's go to the guy who, by my reckoning, won his first World Championship event. First would be 1971 at the RAC Rally, driving a Saab.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, thanks, Arne. See, knowledge. It's called knowledge. I don't Google no shit. I just know. What has changed between you driving your Saab back to Harrogate in 1971 and what these guys do now, or is it just down to bravery and speed?
Yeah, okay. It's a few drivers who have been changing through that time, but otherwise it's rallying is rallying, and okay. The development of the car has been fantastic through the years, so it's people they talking about comparing, but okay, you can't compare 71 and 2015. It's people saying, okay, who is the best driver, but okay, that's the driver of the year, not in 20 years' time. That's impossible.
So do you ever think they could have won Mate Series for 4.7 litre Forenzas very shortly, no? Do you think that's...
That was interesting news when I get here about a car like that. But okay, the car is feeling nice and it's a bit of fun.
A bit of fun. I always have another word for it, but I better not use it here actually. Thank you very much. In fact, we've got a couple of blonde birds. We could have had Abba here with all the Swedes in this corner. Anyway, Hannu, lovely to see you. You weren't driving this afternoon? Is that no? No.
In the morning.
In the morning, yes. I'll give you the microphone so people can hear you rather than just hearing me. So this man was world champion in 1983.
Yes.
Here he replaced you in 1984.
Younger man.
Younger man, correct. Yeah. Only marginally. Okay. Rallying was growing splendidly well during the 1970s. When people were, you know, driving Mark II escorts, and everybody was in love with rallying. And then you came along with the Audi Quattro and just completely transformed rallying. How big a step up was it from the Mark II to four-wheel drive?
Well, first I think I was winning something with 1972, you know.
Yeah.
Escort.
But that doesn't
Didn't come with a Quattro, you know.
It was still black and white.
You know, I was 39 years old when I got the Quattro, so I was quite old already that time.
Of course, out with age, yeah. You're 72.
I'm 72.
Yeah, you go. How that look?
In one
next time I will be 73.
Yeah, but and that's what happens when you drink a pint of embalming fluid every day. That's how good you can look at. But I mean, you won. Okay, you won the African Safari Rally. You were contesting in Mitsubishis and Escorts and winning British Open, everything. Yeah. But I mean, the Quattro just changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. You know, it was a big step forward if you count the speed. You know, and, it changed the whole rallying scene. You know.
What was it like to be a first, a sort of trend-setter?
I was actually smiling a little bit, you know, when I was the first time on the first stage in a Quattro in Monte Carlo rally, and there was a Darnish in a Prado, which was a Ferrari, and I did maybe 77 kilometers. I passed him. Catch him 1 minute. So, you know, it was a long straight uphill, and I had maybe 100 kilometers faster speed than he had.
So you worked out then, it was going to be great.
So at the end I was smiling.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And Arne here, you must have been smiling as well, because you were sitting beside him at that point in time.
I was smiling a lot at that time.
But I mean, what was it like? Because most of the time you just spend with your head down trying to avoid the scenery, but what was it like? Could you actually feel the difference between a normal car and what happened with a four-wheel drive car?
We have a stage in Sweden, it starts with a 700-meter uphill, and there were people checking time, and we were 1 minute quicker up that uphill than the opens and whatever it was.
But that was the drive.
Yeah, the co-driver had to share with it.
Just kept going flat, Talking of court drivers and their input, let me speak to Nicky here. Nicky, lovely to see you.
You too.
It was, you don't mean that.
Just wait until the next thing you're going to come out with.
Oh, it's okay. You're safe, you're well.
Over the years, rallying's become a lot more complex anyway. I think it was a lot more relaxed when you go back, certainly to the recce's that we used to do in the 80s and the very early 90s, where you may have 2 or 3 weeks to do a recce. Now it's really intense, and it's changed for drivers as well, because you have to be that much more focused on everything that you're doing. Everything is so important, because you haven't got 4 days and 500 kilometers of stages to catch up on a fault or a problem or a spin. So I think rallying nowadays is a lot more intense, and certainly the days of these guys were rallying, it was a much nicer period to be involved in rallying, I would say, and a little less pressurised and much easier to prove your performance over a longer period.
These guys are contesting like RAC rallies with 600 stage miles. I mean, a bit of a difference there, isn't it?
Well, my first ever Lombard RAC rally, I had something like 7 or 8 hours sleep in 5 days. You went, this is Colin Mcrae has done this to me. But at the end of the day, the rallies were a lot longer, running through night. Nowadays, health and safety, they wouldn't allow you to do that, would they? That would be too much. But it was, you know, don't get me wrong, what I've done I've thoroughly enjoyed, and you know, when you speak to youngsters now in the World Championship, they don't know any difference. For them it's normal.
So a day of celebration, and I could say without this one year, some of it wouldn't have been possible. You know, Colin did that to him. Look at you, you're only age 12. So Derek Ringer, world champion in 1995 as well, something that you don't let anyone forget in your headed notepaper. Fantastic to see you here, just about to start your country and western set. But anyway, the 1995, you mentioned earlier on in sort of commentary there that it seemed like yesterday, and some of us wish it was yesterday, but the memories must always be there for you, occasionally.
Sometimes. No, you know, 20 years ago, and it does seem like yesterday, both Beatles songs, by the way. Well, not quite, but...
You never lost it, has it? Never had it?
No, at all. Anyway, no, I mean, 20 years, and as Nicky said, and I don't often, I agree with Nick, you know, a famous phrase from 5 years ago. You know, rallying's changed phenomenally, and it is in many respects a completely different sport, but in a lot of other respects it's still a fantastic sport. And you know, I've got memories, as all these other people have, of going all around the world to fantastic places and meeting people that we'd never have met in any other form of life. And so I think we had the best of times 20 years ago. And I feel a little bit sorry for the guys today when they have short events, they're very concentrated, they're in and out of the country. It's more like Formula One in a way, probably without the pay scale. But no, you know, we've had a ball over the years, and I was. Did I do that? Just another accident that's down to me.
Last on the list is now Alister. Great to see you back here from down under.
Great to be here, but I'm worried about what you're going to say.
No, it's okay. You're my pal, honest. Sorry? No, it's okay. So, I mean, you're driving out in the Asia Pacific Championship, you're living in Australia. You must get it slightly differently from everybody else, I would say, given, you know, Colin was your brother. When people actually recognise who you are or who Colin was, what's the kind of reaction when they realise that?
Did you say you Colin's brother?
And
then they say you're the slow one. Anyway, no. Don't mess me up.
It's really nice to be back and see you.
But I mean, the legacy bringing in a Subaru, the legacy still continues right around the world though, in terms of, especially in Australia, given the fantastic footage of Nicky shitting himself going over the jumps and big lines and the likes.
Yeah, no, obviously it's great to come here and the event and see and the people that are here. You know, it's awesome, but you still Colin's get that following all around the world, so you know, it doesn't matter where you go or what rally you're on. He's missed and everybody enjoyed watching him when he was rallying. I think that will continue for a long time. It was a spectator's dream, I think.
Yeah, and a sponsor's dream.
Occasionally, yes.
Yeah. Right, anyway, any questions? I'll bring up over the microphone. You can ask the guys.
And if you get it off them, don't give them it back.
Honestly, I love you. Let's start again here at this end with Kris. What's it been like? The guys from Citroen have been walking around with a taser and a cattle prod, making sure you don't do anything untoward with that car. Straight at the museum, you've managed to keep it all in one piece.
I touched the bumper on the first stage. Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. Citroen were trying everything they could to bring over a DS3, and it wasn't possible because the car was in Argentina, the show car. So they phoned up a couple of weeks back and said, "Would you mind if we brought Colin Zara over?" I thought it was something actually better, and pay a tribute to Colin on the day, and that's what it's all about. So for me, it's really, really special today to drive that car, and it's a mega car to drive, number one, but one that Colin drove, and I think everyone today enjoyed watching it.
We hadn't noticed the amount of donuts you did. I mean, I just take it to the extreme.
I did double check with the engineer this morning. Is it possible to do donuts? He gave me the thumbs up. So when an engineer gives you a thumbs up, you have to oblige.
Doesn't speak a word of English, though, does he? No. Donuts. I'll have those in my coffee. So, I mean, you're driving the current generation of cars. You've driven the Zara today. You've driven various cars. Dead simple question. Most people, what's the best car you've driven?
Difficult. No. These current world rally cars are so efficient. I was just chatting to Alister earlier. They're so efficient nowadays. The differentials work so well. The tires work so well. The suspension is incredible. So it's completely, you're always on the edge, whether it be in Hannu, Stig's era, or our era, you're always on the edge of what you have. But now the speeds are so high, the guys know the stages so well, it sideways on the edge every time. But to be honest, there's not so much sideways anymore. It's trying to be as efficient as possible, and it's only like days like today where you can play about with the car, have a few donuts, pull the handbrake now and again, and it's not often we get to do that. So, you know, still driving the likes of a Mark II Escort on a proper forest rally gives you the ultimate pleasure, because you can let your hair down and have fun and slide the car, whereas in a World Rally car you're doing everything you can to keep it in a straight line.
You do realise once they check the telemetry in that car, you're getting no jotters.
You mightn't see me next week. Once you got a P45 maybe.
Alister, what's your favourite car? Or what, either of your favourite car, or what car have you never driven that you'd ultimately have liked to have driven?
I think, well, it's a bit like Kris, you get a chance to drive different cars and you enjoy driving every one for different reasons. But 3 weeks ago when I was down in New Zealand, I drove what was a WRC Subaru 98 car, but it had 850 horsepower. And we used that in the race to the sky down the hill climb. So it was on gravel, 850 horsepower. And I'm not one for giving up emotion, but I was smiling for 3 days. It was an amazing thing. You could, you know, you
then you drove the car.
And then I drove the car. But you could do what you wanted with it. You had so much power there. You could have it sideways. You could change direction mid corner. You did what you want. So that's going to be the best.
You didn't fancy bringing it back for today, no?
I couldn't get it in my hand luggage.
Jim, your favourite car?
Oh, I'm glad I didn't miss 1986 with the Metro 6R4.
What was the first thing they did? Ban you from television?
No, that's because we had Rothmans on the door.
Yeah.
But no, I think that year, I was glad I got that year in the Group B car. It was something else to have, you know, 400 horsepower, a V6 normally aspirated engine at your back. I'm bloody deaf now because of that. But anyway, it was great.
It was, I liked the road car better than you got the Rover. That was nice, I'll go back to this end with these guys here before they fall asleep, or before the Sonatagen kicks in. So, you had the Quattro and Mark II Escorts and the likes. What was your favourite car? I liked the Mitsubishi, or the Colt Lancer.
I think I was driving everything else except Renault and Saab. No, I think, you know, S1 was the sort of ultimate car, more than 500 horsepower, 1,200 kilos. If I remember right, to 0 to 100, 3 seconds, and to 200 it was around 10 seconds. So it was a fast car. That's what I was driving this morning.
Yeah, that was just going shopping.
No, when you have a very powerful car, in a way it's nice to drive, because you never get in the situation you haven't got the power, you know, to sort out things, you know. So it actually is easier to drive than underpowered car.
Is it?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never found that myself. I panic after a while. Stig, your favourite machine?
It's difficult to pick one, because if you've been driving rally for about 45 years, it has been a few cars you've been driving, so. But okay, it's in the 80s, so yeah, Audi of course was a nice car and a fantastic car. But okay, before that I drove the Lancia Stratos a couple of times, and that was a really good car in that time, so. You can go on for a long, long time.
We're just playing top trumps now, aren't we? I mean, the Lancia Stratos that was the first sort of supercar of rallying, with the V6 engine in the back, Ferrari engine. I mean, it must have been slightly different from even anything you'd driven before.
Yeah, okay, that's, of course, it's a different thing, but you've been trying most of them, so it's not too many surprises come out from cars to it.
Well, you'd be surprised when the cars I've had. Usually what you find in the boot. Right, the guys, you guys all drive the cars. You guys basically do the man management. Well, some of you do. I'll start with Arne here. If these are the best cars that these guys have driven. Let's go into rallies, or world rallies, or rallies in general. What was your favourite rally as a co-driver? Which one did you just sit back and enjoy the scenery on?
One of the favourites, I have to say, it was a RAC. that was very good at that time. And there are a couple of other events as well which were good, but I always liked RSC and our results.
That would help, yeah. So you just acquired a taste for champagne in the RAC rally, yeah. Was it the intensity of the RAC rally that made it good?
When it was raining like shit in here, we were standing there ready to start the stage, and the tires were, well, fantastic, but well, easy to get the puncture.
Yeah.
And the long stage is up there. That was a bit scary, I should say.
Did you ever tell him that? Or him?
It was him.
Him, no. But so that was your favourite. Okay.
Yeah.
What about Nicky? What was your favourite be?
Safari Rally.
Good duty fees in that one, wasn't it?
Exactly. No, I think, you know, it was a round of the World Championship, but it wasn't just about driving flat out and winning. You really had to drive it with your head, and you know, you're driving in conditions which probably a lot of people wouldn't even consider being a road. You know, the road's completely destroyed, and you know, driving over a road of boulders. And
You've never driven through Croy then, no?
I don't know, I've suffered some bad conditions in Castlehaw before now, but this was nothing in comparison. I mean, all these guys will tell you that Safari really was about getting to the finish and having a balanced approach to it, and it really was quite intense. And you know, in the end, certainly Colin made that rally, and certainly Acropolis, some of the tougher rallies, some of his own, which showed to people that he drove with his head as much as with his aggressive driving style, let's say, and flamboyance. He really could use his head as well. And you know, that rally was very memorable, especially when you can see all the wild animals when you're in the cage.
A definite Croy.
But I'm off into Dunfermline tonight. I don't know what we're going to find out there.
It sounds like a kebab shop in Kelty to me, question, nominate. No. What was your favourite rally? World Championship rally?
Well, I guess a lot of people would expect me to say New Zealand, which is one of my favourite rallies, and we did win it 3 times. And obviously the first championship rally that Colin and I won together. But really, the most enjoyable of the World Championship rallies for me was Sweden. And I loved Sweden.
He wants to come for the weekend.
I love Sweden because it's so fast, and because it's on snow, actually the feeling inside the car is completely different from anywhere else when you're on studs and so on. You can get ridiculous slip angles on the car and still not have a major accident. But it's just the nicest experience to do such a quick rally on snow and ice. And the only regret I have is that Colin didn't win it, and we were so close to being the first non-Scandinavians to win it, apart from a crappy Subaru drag shaft.
Oh, controversial.
Just one thing I would like to say, I mentioned all you guys that came here to watch the rally and enjoy what we're doing, but I think you should all put your hands together for Hannu, Arne and Stig. You know, what a lineup you
Arne was driving in front of me, and I saw his times getting better and better, and marks were getting a little bit wider and wider. And then on one of those straights, you know, you have some jumps, and both sides were, you know, this fence. The car was upside down there, you know, wheels pointing up, and Harriman was sitting on the right-hand side of the lanes, and Harry was on the left-hand side, saying, I have got always so bad luck. And I said to Harriman that, you know, when did you realize that you are going to have an accident? And he said, 3 stages ago.
You must have seen, because you're the co-driver, you're obviously checking times. So you check the times on the check sheet, and you must have seen somebody else's times in the past. did you pass the message on to him right away, or did you say, no, we'll just settle for a time here and let him do his own thing?
I try to forget others' times and concentrate on ours. And normally that was enough to have a big smile at them. So
that was a simple philosophy. Just do your own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in Portugal once when we were talking about Arne. We went off, which is of course very unusual. And Arne was a car behind us, so I was running up and trying to stop him or slow him down. But I was too slow and he was too fast. So he more or less flew over my head down and hit our car.
Is that when you were in Rothman's Escorts?
Yes.
I think
Have you seen that?
The caption on the picture was roll your own.
When he's
Oh, seriously?
when he is coming out from the car, he is very confused. And he said, did I break the car in 2 pieces? Because he could see one piece on the roof on the other one.
Yeah, actually he saw in his mirror the Rothmans wrong way round. And that was my car.
So, Stig, I do hope you're a good agent in your career to copyright the name the Stig, because those cheating buggers at Top Gear have absolutely ripped you off. Have a good sports lawyer if you want them, okay? But who really impressed you in any rally you were on that set an unbelievable time, or who did you look at and say, he's really on it?
Okay, we had one guy in Sweden who was driving Saab at the time I started with Saab, and he was incredibly fast in the fog, and it was impossible to understand how and why and how he can be so quick. But okay, later on, a couple of years, he should have a racing license, and he could hardly get one because he couldn't see enough. So that for him was no for him was no different than it was fog or not. He was the same thing.
Was that Paul Anderson?
Åke Andersson, bryggan, yeah. Because he was hardly get the racing license because he couldn't see enough.
Used to have a Labrador as his co-driver. Nicky?
I remember going to Rally New Zealand for the first time in 1993, and I was with Art Kankinen, who wasn't a slow driver, as you can imagine, at that time. But I remember at the end of one stage, one driver took almost 1 minute out of us. And that stage was called Motu, and it was Colin Mcrae and Derek Ringer. That time was just phenomenal.
Please say Drew Struthers and the Coatless stages. No, it's okay.
I guess at the time I was with Colin, probably the most remarkable times, not always, but often came from Tommy. And there's not much more to say than that. He was Colin's biggest threat and rival at the time, and he could turn in some incredible times. And you're sitting there worrying a little bit because Colin would just respond.
I smell shite! That's why you're like it.
A wee bit, it's probably another thing. It was Henry Toivonen when we were both in the Opals, and in the Manx we had the same sort of thing, bloody hell, trying your heart out, and just it would take quite a few seconds off you, and a guy came up to me and said, "You're having trouble beating Henry?" I said, "I sorry, he's on a class he's on." He says, "It's not going to last," he said. And true enough, the next stage he was back dog and filthy roll. And I thought, good, okay. He was trying far too hard to beat me.
Modestly prevented you from saying that. That's class apart, Jim, class apart. Anyway, Alister, you must be countless drivers, eh?
You're going to struggle to speak with that down your throat.
Up my arse.
I'm glad this is a family show.
Sorry kids, sorry. Drink the beer.
I reckon probably it's similar to Derek. I was teammates with Tommy for a year at Nissan, and it was actually the scariest thing was I sat with him in a test in Portugal when I just joined the team, and we jumped in the car. He's like, Alister, come. I said, okay, no problem. Get in the car, and off we go down the stage, and we get about 4 corners, and there's a car coming the other way, and we can slide down the ditch, back on the road. And he goes, ho, 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 fucking hell.
Okay, bring it right up to speed here, Kris. Who's the guy that's apart from Jimmy, obviously? I'll say that before I get sacked. Apart from Jimmy.
Yeah,
Looking back then, sorry, Ed.
it's obviously in the current era, OJ's dominant over the last couple of years, and he's set some scary stage times, but probably my best experience sitting in beside anybody was we went when I was living with Colin in Lanark, and we went to get he had just got his Mark II escort built, and we went to test it the day before, and there's a problem with the gearbox, and
Only has 6 gears.
it's World Rally Car Escort, and so it was about 10 o'clock at night. The escort wasn't going to run, and everybody was turning up to see the Mcrae stages the next day. He was running 0 car, and he said to me, go up to the shed there and we'll pull out the 6R4, we'll take it instead. So I had to go up and move a few cars, get it out, and sort of look over it, and he came up the street, and he fired it up and revved it, and I was, that's good to go. He says, hop in, we'll take it for a wee spin. It was about midnight around Lanark. God help anybody that lived in that town. It was the most frightening experience of my life. It was just launched it on gravel tyres that had been on the car for about 10 years. And yeah, every junction he come to backways, and it was just absolutely frightening. So for me, that was probably the rawest experience I ever had in a rally car, and it was pure raw talent.
Well, gentlemen, I have thoroughly enjoyed this tonight. Some fantastic stories. You guys really should put it all in a book. I'll speak to you later on about it. Alister can colour it in. Please, I know I said it to start with, your mic's off. Royalty. I think you should,
Mic's off!
Sorry?
Your mic's off!
And switched you off.
I think you should! I'm kidding. Anyway, so I think you should put your hands together for these guys individually. Let's start at this end. A man who probably qualified for your bus pass in Finland a few years ago, Mr. Hannu Mikkola. A World Championship co-driver and a man who don't take no shit from Hannu Mikkola, Arne Hertz. A man who doesn't need to dress up in a white suit and a white helmet to be the Stig, Stewart Weir. A man who actually has more world titles here than anybody else, Nicky, Grist. Numerous tarmac events, Didi Oil! A man who won 7 Circuit of Irelands, 7, usually because Hannu was in the Safari Rally, but a man what's Hannu? And Stig. 5 times British Open Rally champion, but runner-up in the European Championships. Mcrae! A man man who I'm giving an extremely hard time to, really, I'm so apologetic now what I've said about him. Kris! I really love to bits. A guy who's travelled all the way from Australia to be here this week. Alister Mcrae. So, a fantastic night. I'm sure you've enjoyed this. If you've enjoyed it, enjoyed my company. My name's Stewart Weir. If you haven't, my name's John Fife. And I would like to think at some point in time we'll do all this again. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.